Yellow duckies, and welcome back to Queen's Wish 2, The Tormentor. My name's Viola. If you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help the channel. So I decided that today I'm basically going to be running around just trying to kind of do some overworld fights to level up while talking to you guys about something. So I did an episode a while back about. Oh gosh, I might have to turn the game sound down. One moment, guys. Okay, so now it's just the background noise. But what I was going to say was so there's been a lot of talk about the week of, I think it was the 15th to the 25th or the 24th, something along those lines, being Mental Health Awareness Week. Now, technically, Mental Health Awareness Month is all of May. So I was actually planning on doing this in an earlier episode, but I really didn't get it down on paper, and I still don't even have it down on paper right now. But I wanted to discuss with you guys my experience with mental health. So, I actually was initially diagnosed with depression when I want to say I was 13. And at the time, there was a lot going on in my family, so it kind of just ended up getting pushed to the wayside and thought of as, oh, it's just because, someone else in the family is getting attention, da da da. Standard kid stuff, standard kid thought process. And so I just kind of came up with coping mechanisms of my own. And I mean, at the time, they worked. But, and I don't know if this is like actual diagnosis details, but I have seen kind of two different types of depression come up. And it's like there's the people that are depressed due to situation where they're in a bad situation, or they've surrounded themselves with questionable people and they can't manage the emotions in that situation. And then there's actual like psychological depression, which is the mental imbalance that is normally classified as like diagnosed depression, which in the end is what I ended up with. But I mean, at the start, it could have been either. Because I mean, as a teenager, it is a situation that our brains aren't fully developed, and we're still learning at that point in time who we are, what we want to do with our lives, and just about everything else. So I can kind of understand how it was kind of pushed to the side. But mine did continue. And it followed me into adulthood. Uh, again, I was in situations where I had made bad choices and hadn't made the best of things, best of opportunities given to me. And it is possible that the reason for that is that um, my misbalance in my brain, which technically is also linked to uh, the PCOS, which I talked about in another kind of real talk episode that I did on Sandrock. I'll try to put it up in the cards so you guys can go back and listen to that one if you want. But keep in mind, all of this, just all of this, is my own experience and should be taken as such. Personal experience, not medical full on knowledge or studies or anything like that. Keep that in mind, okay, guys? Um, so I spent many, many years doing things in weird ways and just trying to manage my own thoughts and the way that my brain was making me feel and everything, and I didn't know any better. I didn't think there was a better way. There was a lot of talk about, oh, psychology is questionable and da 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 da, and it's not really that good right now because we need to study the brain more and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, we're just now getting to a point where we can start doing that a lot more. Which is nice. It's nice that medically speaking, we are getting to a point where we can study the brain more and find out more about what works with what and how everything affects everything else, because it does help with treating not only mental disorders but uh, just medical disorders in general. Um, I'm sorry if there's any like gaps or quiet moments, but a lot of it is me gathering my thoughts. Um, in the end, it was a situation that I was putting myself into these situations because I was not thinking about how they would affect me in the end. In many ways, I wasn't thinking about how they would affect me at all. I I was at a point in life where I was almost purposefully putting myself at risk because I thought I there's a lot of hard things to say here, guys, so just give me a moment. I thought that I not necessarily deserved to to, how do I word this in YouTube safe wording? Um, to pass, to not continue onward. Um, with my life. But I felt useless, and I can honestly say that I still have moments. It's not something that just goes away. Even if you are the happiest person in the world, you can still feel the effects. Um, but it was not making me, not like physically making me, but like it was bringing me to make choices that were not good for me and were not necessarily good for anyone around me either. You don't think clearly because, for the most part, you're trying not to think at all. Um, Either way, eventually, after I ended up in, well, okay, that's skipping quite a lot of years, but um, eventually my mother did pass. Let's step back there into that time frame. I spent 3 months basically asleep. I couldn't handle it. It was that big of a loss. And just emotionally, I didn't know what to do with myself. So I just slept. 3 months. I still don't fully know what went on in those 3 months. That's not. I just kind of disconnected and let everything go. And about 2 years after that was, well, 1 year after that was when I first met Captain Zanuck. 2 years after that, we met in person and things started changing. When I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, I was hospitalized and was made aware of a version of healthcare that I could possibly get involved in that would help me basically take care of myself. Sort of. Sliding scale payment was starting to become a main thing, and at the time, there was actually an ongoing sliding scale program. And I ended up getting involved in that, and it it really did change everything because I was able to talk to one set doctor regularly rather than just going to some of the free clinics where it would be a cycle of different doctors and you weren't ever really certain if you were ever going to see the actual same doctor over and over again. Um, and once I started talking to one doctor and actually sorting things out through one doctor, I started being able to get the help I needed mentally as well, which changed everything. It changed how I viewed life, it changed how I saw things. I was already starting to change because the hospitalization made me realize that I didn't want to end yet. I didn't want to end here. I didn't want that. And once I started being able to get the medical care for my own mental illness was when I started seeing major changes. Like, I'd tried counseling before, but it really hadn't done much of anything for me. But I think it was because it wasn't necessarily the right kind. There are so many different kinds out there and available. And I mean, here in America, it's a pain because everything costs. Medical system in America, even the doctors that are on YouTube will tell you, "Hey, no, this things are messed up. Something is wrong here," and even they think it's wrong here. But you can only make so much change in so much time. But I ended up trying out a medication just to see if it would help to manage my symptoms, which were still pretty bad at that point in time. It was a mix of situational and physical. Like actual mental imbalances and everything. And once I started that, I started seeing changes. I started seeing changes that I needed to see. And admittedly, I have been on the medication for years now, and I can honestly say I am in a way better place than I was years ago. Now, admittedly, this isn't for everybody. Everyone should make their choice depending on how they feel, on what's good for them, on what, if it's just, a counseling level or if it's a medicated level. It all has to do with your personal experience. But I will say that I am really happy about the changes that have been happening with care for mental illnesses and mental imbalances and everything. There's so much availability out there now by comparison to what was there when I was younger. So if you ever have the chance of it and you have feelings being off, being anxious, being whatever the case may be, talk to someone. Bring things up. Even if it's just to your doctor, they can probably point you in the right direction. If you're underage, Ask for your parent to step out of the room if you don't feel comfortable talking in front of them. You can't. This is your care. Just don't leave it until you put yourself into a bind. Because it's much harder to get out of a bad situation than to get into one. So yeah, um, that's gonna be today's episode, guys. I know there was basically no background noise, and it was just a lot of me talking and then silence while I was gathering my thoughts, and I apologize, but considering the time frame and just considering life itself, I felt like it was something that should be put out there for anyone to hear. Anyone can get help, anyone and everyone. And if you feel like you need it, you should. Don't feel like there's anything wrong with you. Don't feel like you are not capable of handling it, because not everybody can. Nobody's perfect. So thank you for listening, those of you who did. And thank you for watching, those of you who regularly watch anyway. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell icon to keep up to date on all the videos. And remember to free the feral wildflower in you. Bye bye.